Hello everyone, Fanta here, and you are watching Fantavision. Today we're going to be discussing the best games of 2017, and at the end, I'm going to tell you what my favorite game of 2017 was. So, without further ado, let's dive right in to what some of the best games were of this year. So the first game I'm going to talk about is Persona 5. Persona 5 is what you want in a video game. It has an amazing story, amazing art style, very creative combat system, it's got a great leveling system, it's got an addictive collecting aspect to it, kind of like Pokemon, but not really. I just like to compare it to that. It's just the easiest way to quickly kind of describe what it's like when you collect Personas, and just the game itself is just phenomenal in every way. I mean, the soundtrack even is just, I could listen to the soundtrack by itself and be completely content. And just there's comedy, the characters are fully developed. It's just a phenomenal game that if you have any interest in RPGs at all, not even just JRPGs, because I'm not a real big fan of JRPGs, but if you just you're just a fan of RPGs and action games and games with a great, weird, unique story, I highly recommend you give Persona 5 a try. Another game that obviously needs no introduction is Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is the game that Nintendo really needed to do well, because this was really the only launch game that the Nintendo Switch had that really had any value. And I gotta say, this game is chock full of value. Even without the amazing expansion pass that they've come out with recently, this game is just brimming with stuff to do. There's different places to explore, there's all the towers to get, there's the different towns to go to, you can get your own house, there's all the different armors you can collect, there's the different dungeons to go through, you can collect all the Korok seeds. There's just so much to do in this game, and it's just gorgeous. The soundtrack is also amazing to go along with it, and even when there's no real music playing, just the atmospheric sounds of the wind and everything like that really just pulls you into the game. Once again, this game is not a perfect game. I gotta stress that. I cannot stress that enough. But it is a game that I absolutely fell in love with and made me a proud person to own a Switch. Another Nintendo game that could also definitely be Game of the Year is Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey is by far my favorite Mario 3D platformer. I love the 2D platformer games, but I also sometimes just need to mix it up with the 3D platformers. And this one, wow, I mean, it exceeded any expectations I had for this game. This is just something I can see myself playing again and again, even on the go. Now, I do like to play this on the TV most of the time, just to take in all the breathtaking visuals along with the full sound of the game coming through my speakers. And just, it's so creative in the way that it kind of reinvents the platformer once again. I mean, as you're seeing right now, this little mini platforming within a platforming game, it's just such a creative idea. I never thought they would do that. Also, I loved the different outfits that you can unlock, the ways you can unlock them, and the fact that they could have easily made those costumes microtransactions, but Nintendo, being Nintendo, and I mean that in a good way this time, did not put any microtransactions in. And for that, I think this game is worth every single penny. And just the levels themselves are just so much fun to explore. And they give you a reason to keep coming back to explore just because of that addictive nature of collecting those moons. Even once you've seen that you've filled up the entire required moons, you don't want to leave. You want to keep trying to find as many as you possibly can, and even when you beat the game, you want to go back and find the ones you missed. So, just hats off to Mario. Another PS4 exclusive that has a chance of becoming Game of the Year, to me at least, is Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn, though critically praised, unfortunately didn't get as much fanfare as the game really deserved. I mean, the game came out way too close to the launch of Breath of the Wild that even I didn't have a chance to play it near launch. But once I got back to playing the game later on after I'd beaten Zelda, I noticed that this game really did deserve more respect than it got. I mean, sure, it takes a lot of elements from other games that do the same pretty much thing. Sure, it's got the crafting element, the hunting, it's got those towers like in Ubisoft games, but it does all those things better than the games that it borrows from. Like, take for instance the towers. It makes them a unique puzzle every single time you do it, so it keeps them interesting and makes you actually want to do it instead of just a boring, awful chore like it is in Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. This is definitely a contender for Game of the Year just because it takes something that has been done already, polishes it, and makes it near perfect. And the last game is probably either my first or second favorite game in the series, and this was on multiple platforms, Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 marks a huge change for the Resident Evil series, and I think it's a very welcomed one because they've been doing third-person shooter types of Resident Evil 7s for quite a while. I mean, they have tried a lot with this series. I mean, they did, from the original, they started with kind of a top-down, moving camera perspective to the camera following you in a third-person survival horror perspective like Resident Evil 4. And they also do the action stuff like in Resident Evil 6. But I think that Resident Evil 7 is probably the best change out of all of them. And the first-person aspect just works so well in this game and provides a whole lot more scares and brutality to a lot of this combat. I mean, there's chainsaws, there's these really creepy looking people, and instead of focusing on an entire corporation that's being evil, instead it brings it back down to just a family of just nightmares. And this more focused approach to the series with this game, I think should be something they should do from now on. They should really stick to just focusing into something smaller and fleshing that out more, and they did that phenomenally in this game. Instead of having a huge world to run around in, you kind of have a tight packed area of a house and a secondary house, and then near the end of the game there's another part. But it's just such a great game, one of the best horror games I've ever played. Highly recommend it to anyone who's a fan of the horror genre and who's sick of those games that don't give you a frickin' weapon. So, all of those games, very difficult, honestly, to pick from this list of what the best game of this year was. But I really think that the best game of 2017 was Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And that's just, I mean, the game, believe me, is not perfect. It has its fair share of flaws, but I had a blast playing this game. And what a game to launch a system with. Now, I know it felt like it was a little bit held back by the fact that it wasn't the Wii U and also on the Switch. It felt like the Switch was really a port of the Wii U version, but upgraded slightly. But just being able to play Legend of Zelda on the go, and this first real open world Zelda game that has tons of stuff to do, lots of really great areas in the game that are just interesting, places you want to explore, the really addictive dungeons where you just want to go through and find as many as you can. Even finding those seeds was kind of fun sometimes, which you've now learned is literally just finding pieces of crap to make a giant mountain of crap. Which they then give you at the end if you find all 900. Which is, they even put in as a joke. I kind of like that they knew that was just ridiculous and put that in as a joke. So they had a sense of humor. The art style is, I think, going to be timeless, kind of like Wind Waker, where you can kind of play it later on. And if they do decide to remake this game in the future on like the Switch 3 or 4 or whatever, or the Switch 2, you're going to see a lot sharper graphics, a lot better steady frame rate, because it did sometimes lag in the frame rate department, and I think there'll be like a complete edition that will be remade for the next console made by Nintendo. And You know, I think I would welcome that. I mean, I know I'm always against remakes and stuff like that, but even the DLC for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild looks super interesting. They're adding like they added like a challenge mode, they added a harder difficulty, they added like a motorcycle, they're adding more storyline. Like this is what DLC should be. When you get an expansion pass, you want it to be like an expansion pack. Remember when expansion packs were a thing? I've gone down this road before and I've talked about this rant, but I just wanted to bring it up again because Zelda seems like it's a game that is doing it right again. And that's another reason why I put it on this list. And the enjoyment that I had during this game, I don't know, like, it felt like I hadn't played a game like that in a long time. I hadn't been that excited about a game in a long time. And it was just refreshing to play something that wasn't trying to sell me something else, except for the experience that I'd already purchased. And there's subtle bits of humor throughout, and there wasn't really that big of a storyline, but the little bit of a storyline they had was great. And I don't know, I just feel like this is a game that I could probably replay again, which I really don't do very often with games. I usually don't replay games. But this game feels like I could start over again, play through, and have a blast all over again. So that's why I gave Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Game of the Year of 2017. So, if you don't have the game already and you own a Nintendo Switch or a Wii U, I don't know what you're doing, because this game is phenomenal, and there's a reason it was so highly rated. Seriously, there's a reason why it sold so well, and because it's such a great designed game. So, there you go. That's my pick for 2017. I know a lot of people are thinking that game's overrated, and that's easy to think when a game scores so highly and does so well. But you know what? Sometimes games do deserve it. And this was a game that was hyped up, but honestly deserves all the hype it got. Like I said, it's not perfect. I don't think it deserves a 10, but I do think it was the best game of 2017 that I played. Now, I know some people are like, well, you didn't put Nier Automata on this list, you didn't put Cuphead. I didn't play those games. So this is out of the games that I played this year. Even then, I mean, the way those games are played, I don't think I would have given them, Game of the Year anyway. So, Legend of Zelda, phenomenal game, beautiful graphics, just the atmosphere. I don't know. Like, you felt you were, like, in the world. But it is, however, one of the games, the very few games where I don't like when it's raining. Usually I love when it's raining in a video game. Not in this game. This game, it's like hell. So, stay tuned for my next video where I talk about the most disappointing games of 2017. And the other video that's going to come even before that, which is going to be games that shouldn't be even considered for Game of the Year, that websites are considering anyway. Because people are considering some games that I don't think should be on any best of list ever. And we'll dive into that. It'll be a good old Fanta rant time, and I know you guys enjoy that, so definitely look forward to that. Thanks for watching, everyone. As always, have a fantastic day, and leave a comment down below on what you think the best game was of 2017. See ya.